Once, a pilot named Ken was flying a routine mission over the Pacific Ocean. Suddenly, he noticed something strange in the sky. It was a group of glowing orbs, flying in formation around his plane. He had heard stories about the mysterious Foo Fighters from his fellow pilots, but he never thought he would encounter them himself. Ken tried to communicate with the orbs, but they didn't respond. Suddenly, one of the orbs shot towards him, and before he knew it, he was sucked into a bright light. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a completely different place. He was in a vast empty space, and the only thing in sight was a large metallic structure. As he approached it, he saw that it was a massive spaceship. And to his surprise, he saw a figure standing outside the ship. It was himself, but dressed in a strange futuristic suit. Ken was confused and shocked. The other version of himself explained that he was from a parallel dimension, where advanced alien technology allowed them to travel through different realities. He had been monitoring Ken's dimension for some time, and had been waiting for the right moment to make contact. The other Ken, called Kenneth, took him on a tour of the ship, and showed him all the incredible technology that existed in this dimension. They also discussed the nature of the Foo Fighters, which were in fact a form of alien probes, sent to observe different dimensions. After a few hours, Kenneth sent Ken back to his own dimension. He was confused and overwhelmed by everything he had seen, but he knew he would never forget this incredible experience. He spent the rest of his life trying to find a way to return to that other dimension. Ken had returned to his own dimension, but he couldn't shake off the memories of his incredible journey. He spent every spare moment trying to find a way to return to the parallel dimension and see his other self again. Years passed, and Ken had all but given up on his quest. That is, until one day, his other self appeared in front of him, right in the middle of his living room. He had found a way to cross over into Ken's dimension. Kenneth explained that his dimension was in grave danger. The portal that connected their two dimensions was in danger of collapsing, and if it did, it would mean the end of both dimensions. He needed Ken's help to save it. Ken didn't hesitate for a moment. He knew that he had to help in any way he could. Kenneth gave him a device that would allow him to travel to the parallel dimension and back, and together, they set off on the mission. They traveled to the center of the portal, where they found a group of hostile creatures trying to destroy it. Kenneth had a plan, and they worked together to fight off the creatures and repair the portal. It was a fierce battle, but in the end, they were successful. The portal was saved, and both dimensions were safe once again. As a token of appreciation, Kenneth gave Ken a small device that would allow him to visit the parallel dimension anytime he wanted. Ken was overjoyed, and he knew that he would return to the parallel dimension many times in the future. He thanked his other self and said goodbye, promising to meet again soon. Ken returned to his own dimension, and he knew that his life would never be the same. He had saved not only his dimension, but also another one, and he had made a friend in the process. He knew that he had a special role in the universe, and he was proud to have played a part in saving it. 1 year later, Ken couldn't resist the pull of the parallel dimension any longer. He used the device given to him by his other self, and returned to the alternate dimension. As soon as he arrived, he was greeted by his other self, who was happy to see him again. They caught up on old times, and Ken was eager to learn more about the advanced technology in the other version of Earth. During his visit, he met Benita, his other self's girlfriend. She was kind, intelligent, and beautiful, and Ken found himself immediately drawn to her. They spent a lot of time together, and Ken found that they had a lot in common. As the days passed, Ken realized that he was falling in love with Benita. He felt guilty for having these feelings, knowing that she was in a relationship with his other self. But he couldn't help the way he felt. Ken decided to talk to his other self about it. Kenneth was not happy about it and made Ken go back to his own dimension. Time passed too quickly. Ken couldn't resist the pull of the parallel dimension any longer. He had been away from his love, Benita, for weeks. He used the device given to him by his other self, and returned to the alternate dimension. As soon as he arrived, he knew that he had to hide his true identity. He knew that if he revealed himself as Ken, he would be sent back to his own dimension, and would never be able to see Benita again. So, he decided to pretend and to keep his true identity a secret and play Kenneth. He spent his time with Benita, and she was completely unaware of the deception. She thought that he was Kenneth, and she was happy to be with him. They had a great time together, and Ken found himself falling deeper in love with her every day. As the days passed, Ken's guilt began to grow. He knew that he was lying to Benita, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was doing something wrong. But at the same time, he couldn't bear the thought of losing her. He began to lead a double life, pretending to be Kenneth when he was with Benita, and living as Ken when he was alone. He knew that it was only a matter of time before he was found out, but he couldn't bring himself to end the relationship. As the days turned into weeks, Ken's guilt became unbearable. He knew that he needed to come clean to Benita and tell her the truth. So, one day, he sat her down and told her everything. He explained that he was Ken, not Kenneth, and that he had been lying to her from the beginning. To his surprise, Benita was understanding. She told him that she loved him, no matter who he was, and that she didn't care if he was Ken or Kenneth. They decided to continue their relationship and to make it work, no matter the challenges they might face. Ken knew that it would be a difficult journey, but he was willing to do whatever it takes to be with the woman he loved. He knew that he would always have a special place in his heart for the parallel dimension and the woman who lived there. At first, Ken and Benita kept their relationship a secret. They knew that if Kenneth found out, he would not be happy. He had been very welcoming and kind to Ken, and they didn't want to betray his trust. But eventually, Kenneth found out. He was devastated when he learned that Ken had been pretending to be him and that he had been in a relationship with Benita. He felt betrayed and hurt, and he didn't know what to do. Ken knew that he had to face the consequences of his actions. He went to Kenneth and apologized for what he had done. He explained that he had never intended to hurt him and that he had never meant to betray his trust. Kenneth was furious, but he could see that Ken was truly remorseful. He told Ken that he couldn't forgive him for what he had done, but that he would not stand in the way of his relationship with Benita. Ken was relieved that Kenneth was not going to stop him from being with Benita, but he knew that it would be difficult for them to maintain a friendship after what had happened. He promised to respect Kenneth's wishes and to stay out of his way. Ken and Benita continued to be together, but they knew that they would have to tread carefully. They knew that they had hurt Kenneth and that they would have to work hard to regain his trust. In the end, Ken realized that he had made a mistake. He learned that honesty and loyalty are crucial in any relationship, and he made a commitment to be a better person. He knew that he would always regret what he had done, but he also knew that he had found true love with Benita, and he was determined to make it work. After Ken's second visit to the parallel dimension, Benita comes home with him to find that she doesn't like his dimension. She finds Ken's dimension to be less advanced or less appealing in comparison to the parallel dimension she comes from. She found it hard to adjust to living in a different dimension, different culture or lifestyle than what she's used to. She missed her home and the life she had in the parallel dimension. She is torn between staying with Ken in his dimension or returning to her home dimension. Benita suddenly got sick. The medicine in our dimension was not working. So Ken tried to take her back to her own dimension, but finds that Kenneth has disconnected his device for traveling to his dimension. Ken and Benita were unable to return to the parallel dimension and seek the appropriate treatment for Benita's illness. Without access to the advanced technology and medicine of the parallel dimension, they were unable to find a cure. Benita's condition worsened and Ken was unable to save her. She passed away. This tragic event had a deep impact on Ken, causing him to feel guilty and regret not being able to save her. He vowed to find a way to return to the parallel dimension and prevent this from happening again. Ken, determined not to let the same tragedy happen again, worked tirelessly on the device that would allow him to travel to parallel dimensions. He poured all his energy and resources into finding a solution, and eventually, he succeeded. He was able to develop a new device that allowed him to travel to other parallel dimensions. During his travels, Ken discovered that in each dimension, there were doubles of everyone, including himself and Benita. He realized that there were infinite versions of himself and the people he loved, living in different realities. He also found that his other versions of himself and his loved ones had different lives. Some were happy and fulfilled, while others were struggling with their own challenges. Ken's discovery filled him with a sense of hope and purpose. He knew that he could not change the past, but he could use his newfound ability to travel to other dimensions to help those in need. He decided to dedicate his life to traveling from dimension to dimension, searching for people who needed his help, and using his knowledge and resources to make a positive impact on their lives. He also realized that he could see Benita again, in one of the other dimensions, if she is still alive. He dedicated his time to search for her in these other dimensions, and when he found her, he was filled with joy. He could finally tell her how much he loved her and how much she meant to him. He could be with her and help her in any way he could. Ken's journey was not easy, but it was fulfilling. He knew that he was making a difference in the lives of many people, and that gave him a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. He also knew that there was always the possibility that he could see Benita again, and that thought kept him going.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more quality content.